Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of this series. In today's video, we'll be looking at how we can actually customize work item fields, work items, and work item processes in Azure DevOps. For us to be able to do this, we need to start with what we call the inherited process. This will give us the avenue to be able to customize our work items and work item processes. Once we have been able to create our inherited process, then we'll take a look at how we can customize the process itself. Then from there, we'll look at the work item field customization. Then we'll take a look at the work items customization and wrap it up with the customizing workflow states and transition. Now let's take a look at how we can actually do all this. I'm going to log on to my Azure DevOps organization platform. To start with, I'm going to click on the organization settings. Click on the process which is under the board blade. Now, this will take me to where we have all our processes. For the purpose of this training, I will be using the agile process to demonstrate how you can actually customize these work item process, and the work item field. Before we even start customizing, let's click on the agile. Let's see if we can even customize this process without creating the inherited process I talked about. As you can see, we do not have an option to add a new work item. That's not possible. Also, let's click on any of these work item process and see if we can even customize the work item field or the work item itself. Now, you can see all these options are grayed out already because we do not have the permission to customize this process. Now, let's go back by clicking on all processes. So the first thing we need to do here is to create our inherited process, like I've said. So I'm going to click on this button here and click on create inherited process. So I'm going to give this Agile version 2. You can decide to write a description to say this is a customized version, whatever you want to put in there. So I click on the work process. As you can see now, our process has actually been created for us. So let's take a look at the work items and the work item field that we currently have here. So I'll click on the Agile version 2. So you can see this is the same thing that we have on the Agile. So if I click on the features again, this is exactly the same thing that we have. If you notice something, these fields are now being enabled for us. That means we can now start by adding our new field, our new group, or even a new page. We can even customize the work item process if we wish to. So I'm going to go back to the Agile version 2. Before we even start talking about how to customize a field or how to add a field to a work item, if you notice something here, you will see that we now have the option to now add a new work item, which was not possible when we viewed the agile process. So let's say I want to add a new work item. I'm going to call this the change request, and I give it a color. If you want to make it the default color, yes, you can go ahead, but I'm going to change this color to, let's say, green. Then you can decide to change the icon also. No, I think we have to something like this. Then you give it a description if you like, or you can continue without even giving a description. As you can see here, I have the option now to create a new page, to create a new group, and to create a new feed. Now, we only have one page, which is the details page. Let's say I even want to add another page. Now, let's say we want to add a test page. I'll click on the new page, and this will, create a test page for me. So this work item now has what we call the test page. So I can decide to add a new group under this test page. As you can see, there are two pages now. Let's say discussion. Now we have the discussion group already created for us. So now we can decide to start adding a new feed. I'll click on this. See, there are two options there. Is either I create my new feed. I was talking about the fact that you can now customize your feed and also customize your work item feed. So if I decide to customize my own feed, I can just give it a random name and say test discussion. And if I want this to be maybe a single line or multiple line test, or I even want this to be like an integer, something that can be picked, or an identity. Regardless of the data type, you can do that by adding the data type here. So I'm going to stick with the multiple lines and click on add field. So that means I currently have a new field which I've customized. I can move this field to this group. I can also decide to add a new field from here. And this time, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be using one of the existing field, like the acceptance field. So click on this, and this will create, the field under this particular group. So you can decide to customize your work item by creating a new page, by creating a new group, or even adding new field, either by adding the in process field or by customizing your own field. So let's go back here. Now we've created a new work item. Now let's take a look at how we can actually customize an existing work item. If there is a need for us to add another field to this work item. So if I click on this feature, what I'm going to do is to create a new field by doing this. So I'm going to be using one of the field that we currently have. I'm going to stick with the acceptance criteria. Click on this new field. Yes. So I wish to have an acceptance criteria under this work item, and that's why I'm adding it. You can also decide to edit some of the work item fields that you currently have. Let's take a look at the risk. I can hide this particular field from this work item, and I can also edit this particular field. Edit in the sense that I can change the name. I can say this field is actually required. If you do not supply, you know, a value to this field, then you should not be able to create this particular work item. So let's take a look at that. I click on the edit, and you can see I can change the label. If I go to the options, I can set this as required. And also, I can set a default value to say I is the default value, or for every time you are creating this um, work item, it has to be low. And I can also say I want to add another work value to say critical. So if I go to the definition, you can add a new value to say this is critical, it's zero critical. So if I set it to zero, it should be critical. So those are the things you can do. So as you can see, like I've actually explained, you can see that you can create your own work item field. You can actually create your own work item. You can even add a new page, a new group, or a new field to your work item. Also, for this particular process, you can decide to change the state. So if I click on this state here, these are the state that we currently have, which are the new, the active, the resolved, the closed. So you can decide to have a new state by giving it a name, set this state to maybe new, in progress, whatever state you want to do. If we decide to change the name of any of these states, you cannot do that from here, but I will still show you guys how you can actually do that. What you can do here is to view, then, as you can see, you cannot edit the name, but you can do that from the board. So to do that, you need to go back to your projects. Then I click on project itself. Then on the board, you click on this settings, which is the configure board settings. There are a lot of things you can still do here. Then I click on the column. Then here you can see I can actually rename my state to whatever I want to do. You can also add a new column here, if there is a need for you to add a new column to say post. Save this. If you check this on the board now, you would see that, or let's say on hold, you will see that we currently have another work item state. So I think that brings us to the end of this video. If you have not subscribed to this channel, please do, because there are a lot of videos that will be dropping soon. Bye everyone.